Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Built. In this episode, we're going to finish working on the DIY core support for my Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Stay tuned. Jumping back in where we left off on this lower support, right behind it and underneath it goes this piece of plate metal like this, and we're gonna go ahead and cut it to length, add gussets into it, and then weld it in there. Why are we doing gussets? Pretty much just because they look cool. They look cool. They also make it a little bit lighter because there's gonna be a bunch of holes in it. They make it more rigid, but with H-nth plate like this, you don't need to make it any more rigid. So it's overkill, but it's gonna look super cool if anybody looks at the bottom of my radiator. So here we go. Ran into a bit of a problem when adding a gusset into this very thick 1.5 inch bar. It's not thick and it's not wide enough, so the gusseting tool is actually bending the bar because it's trying to bend out further than the material is, and also it's just a little bit too thick. It's such a struggle for the tool to get through there. So I'm ditching that to go down to this, which is a much thinner sheet metal, but once we add gussets, it will add a lot of rigidity. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this thing in half, gusset it up, and that will be our bottom support. That is one gusseted piece of metal right there. It's cut to length to match down here. So this is gonna act kind of as the bottom shelf. I'm gonna set it right down here and then weld it in. Radiator mount is finished. It looks great. I threw some rubber bushings inside the gussets there. They fit in there really nicely. That helps keep the radiator up and off of the metal so we don't have aluminum rubbing on metal. It put it just in the right spot, as low down as we could go without having that hose clip that metal there, and it's in the right spot forward, backwards, motion wise, and left to right. It's centered in the car. So that's perfect. That's good. Now we need to move on to the next piece, which is a piece that needs to come off of the post here and off of the back plate. It needs to come up here to up front where we're gonna run across. Same kind of style as what we did down there. Now that has to hold the fenders. It has to hold the radiator in the right front to back direction, and it also has to hold our hood pin. So it has to be very strong and very secure, or else our hood will fly off. So it's got to do a lot of jobs, and it's got to be very square. But we can do it. Here we go. Just finished welding up the front brace bar. It looks very cool. Unfortunately, I burned through a weld on the back, so I had to add some welds in the front to cover up the holes. But it came out looking great. The gussets make it look pretty badass. It looks like an airplane part. So this comes over here, and this is our brace that goes across here. Let me mock it up real quick for you. So this is how it goes in the car, and it has 3 jobs to do. So the first one is to hold the radiator in. We're gonna add some rubber grommets into the gussets on the far ends, and that will hold the radiator down. And my hope is that when I pull those grommets out, that the radiator will be able to slip out. If not, then I will have accidentally welded the radiator into the car, and I will have to go back and unweld it. The other job that it does is it holds the fenders in place. So what we'll do is we'll weld the tab off from the bottom right down here that goes out, that each fender will bolt up to. And then the other thing is hood pins, which will probably be mounted here and here when we get to that stage. So the next thing that we need to do is go ahead and finalize the installation and the placement of this. And by doing that, we're gonna go ahead and weld from here down to here and connect here to the plate back there. And that should finalize the installation of this upper front cross member. top front cross member is officially mounted in the car. I'm so stoked on this. This went really well. So we went from here back to the plate over here, and then from here down to here on both sides. The radiator, if you remove the bushings, can barely be removed from the car, which is just how you want it. You don't want it removing itself. And then I have a backup plan with some bolt holes and some screws if I want to go ahead and mount it in there even further. The only thing I'm going to think about changing, I'm going to sleep on this, come back tomorrow, see how much time I have. I might change this to, instead of going up straight, to 245s, bend this in and connect it right up there. I might do that because I don't want water coming in there, and I thought, I could just throw a plug in there, but I'm going to sleep on it. I'm calling it a night for tonight. Come back tomorrow, and we'll see if we're going to change that or not. All right, what's up guys? Back for another day at the shop. We got a lot done yesterday, but there's a lot more to do today, but it's all coming out really good, so I'm super excited, and I was really happy to get back in the shop today. First thing I've decided to do is come back and revisit this. I want to go ahead, now I can't get any more material, so I have to be careful with the material that I cut off, but I want to try and slice these two pieces at a 45 and join them up like that, like to match all the other joints. That looks a lot better. Takes a little bit of extra time, but I'm glad I went back and did that, so now I don't have to worry about a plug or water getting in there or anything else like that. Next thing we're gonna go ahead and do is work on the front impact bar, because to do that we're gonna have to add on a bunch of body panels, and those body panels will help guide us later on with the oil cooler placement and the fender tabs. So to do that, we're gonna go ahead and take some 3-inch steel plate. I have some squares cut out already that are gonna go on this. So one's gonna weld on this side, the other one's gonna weld on the front of the impact bar, and that's where we're gonna go ahead and bolt the two pieces together. So this is the first detachable piece besides the core support that we're going to go ahead and build. So I'm going to start working on those plates, get them welded up, and get the posts that are coming out built as well. Just finished up bolting up the backing plate right to here. So I don't know if you can see, but one is welded to the car, to the main post, and the other one is bolted on here. And then from here, we're gonna have a post that comes out, and then to the bash bar that comes around. So next thing we gotta do is bend up a bar for this front bash bar that can tuck into this piece right here. Bent up the front impact bar and it looks great. Only problem is I have no idea how I'm gonna hold it in place and get it welded in there, but I'll figure it out. Bash bar is complete and it looks fantastic. I'm super happy with the way it worked out. It was very, very hard having to hold it there in place, but I just put some guide measurements on there and I was able to nail it. So it is in here, it's square. I love how when you look at it from the front, you can't see anything. There's no sign of anything going on. And then when you get in here, you can see the structural support of it and how it runs through the car. It comes right up to the bumper cover, and that's one thing that I'm gonna change is right now it's actually touching the bumper cover, so I'm gonna shave off about a 45 on the sides there so it no longer touches the bumper cover, because I don't want it to scratch through the polyurethane. Metal with enough rubbing will eventually just scratch right through, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and make those changes once I have the bumper cover off. I'm gonna beef up the tack welds on this thing a little bit more, make it a little bit stronger, and then from there we're gonna start working on mounting the oil cooler. Just got the oil cooler mounts done. I didn't want to mount anything to this front bash bar, but because of where it sits, how low it sits down, and how far forward towards the front of the car it sits, it was much better to mount this to the bash bar just using two very simple tabs rather than build some very large thing off of the front of the core support, because then if the bash bar gets hit, it will run into the core support and damage the core support and the oil cooler, versus bash bar getting hit. Hopefully the oil cooler will have lots of room to move back because it is quite spacious in there before anything bad happens. So I thought that was probably the best of the two options, even though I really didn't want to build anything off of the bash bar. So that's it for fabrication. This thing that I either mentioned in the last episode or this episode is an AC evaporator. It's not a condenser. I ordered the wrong part. It must have been a late night on eBay. So I ordered the condenser. That'll be in soon, and that goes in front of the radiator, and that will plug into these two pipes here. Then the power steering cooler, which is right there, will go in front of that there. So we are done with fabrication. We are done with mounts until we have our hood mounted on, and then we will do our hood pins off of this rail right here. But we're done. So it's time to do a breakdown, take everything apart, move it over to the bench, weld it all up, weld all the seams totally done, and then we'll reinstall it on the car. Now that I got everything broken down, I realized I forgot one thing. We need to make some 45s that support from here to help support in case there's a upward momentum, that it won't just fold up into the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut and tube notch out two 45s, one for each side, and then weld them in, as well as welding up the whole frame. There we go, finished product. It's all welded up, thrown back on the car. We've got our radiator mounted in, we've got our oil cooler mounted in, we've got a spot for our hood pins, we've got a spot for our fender mounts, and whatever else the hell we need to weld onto here, it's ready to go and it can take on the job. I am very, very happy and proud of how this turned out. That's a wrap for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like BS for Build and you like what we do here, head over to bsforbuild.com, scroll down to the shop, pick up any of the merchandise there. All the proceeds go directly towards these builds. And if you want to follow some more places, get a little behind the scenes action, I actually spoiled this yesterday. Check us out on Facebook, BS for Build, Instagram, BS for Build, Snapchat, and Twitch, BS for Build. See you guys on there. Thanks again for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a good night. Peace!